Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition, and with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And now, here's Reverend Sip.
Got joy in my soul. God is in control. I got Satan on my trail, but I'm singing all is well. He's attacking every day, but I'm watching while I pray. No matter the attack, I won't turn back.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us today. Our guest is April Preston. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist in Washington, D.C. area, and she received her master's degree in marriage and family therapy from St. Mary's University in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She specialized in systems and family dynamic and have a strong love for community and cultural matters. She has a belief and she has that feeling that so many of us sometimes do not have, of making the community better for our children and for our teens and for our all generation. And she didn't tell me this, but that's why I think that she went into this profession to make a difference in our community, to make a difference in our home, to make a difference with us as human beings and all the things that are going on as we speak today. She decided to reach out and start her own business. And she's a founder, a Kovu, and the definition is a Swahili, but it means scar. How many of us think about we carry those scars around for a long period of time? Sometimes we never get rid of those scars. But today, we're going to talk about our young people and also our other generation, but particularly our young people and what they are going through today. The loneliness, depression, isolation, and also, which is increasing, she's going to talk a little bit about that as well, is suicide rates. So, Ms. Preston, thank you for taking the time to be with us. It is a blessing, a blessing. You've been on our show several times, but it's always a blessing for you to take your time, because I know during this time you are so busy, to make it better for us, to give us this information that we can get better, because we need help. We need help, and we thank God for you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Reverend Sue.
Yes. So the pandemic has been a disaster for all of us. Things was something we never experienced in our lives in this country or throughout the world. And with that pandemic came the loneliness of our young people, stress and sadness. How will you define loneliness to us? Because I have a very active household. Sometimes you look and say, do I feel lonely or what? Mm-hmm. Or do I have to go out and do something, but do I feel lonely? How do you define loneliness relating back to what our young people are dealing with? And when I say young people, I'm talking about maybe 15 to 24-year-old or even older. Sure. You're expert. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think that loneliness is really defined, in the eyes of the beholder. You can be in a room full of people and still feel lonely, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's a matter of how you conceptualize loneliness, how you feel connected. Mm-hmm. Loneliness can be defined as the feeling of being alone, regardless of the amount of social connections that you have. So if you are feeling like you are disconnected or that you are not being seen or heard or validated, you can experience this feeling of loneliness. And many of our young people have experienced that throughout the pandemic.
Do you think that, the loneliness, so we have to, what support? We know that it's there. You know that it's there. Yeah. As a therapist, you see it, you witness it, you live it. What can we do? What can we do as a community? Sometimes we don't know, because the communication is not there. We just don't know that our children or our next door neighbor or our grandchildren or even children in our church what can we do?
I think we can be bold and, name it. If we see it, if we're noticing it, we can ask or just inquire or just be, a support to that person. But I think oftentimes we experience people and we kind of see certain things from them, certain symptoms or behaviors. And because we don't want to, invade their privacy, we don't say anything. And many people hurt right in, public view. And so if you're noticing a change in a young person's behavior, or you're just kind of wondering, that person lives alone, or they spend a lot of time alone. Every time I talk to them, they're always alone. Ask them about it. Say something about it. Say something about it. Be bold and be courageous in the sense of, I'm noticing something. God has put something on my spirit regarding this person, and I just want to check in. And so, I say I'd rather be nosy and be right about what it is I'm feeling than not nosy and right and something go wrong and something happen, right? That's the worst feeling, to see someone go through something, you don't engage, you don't interact with them, and something bad happens. And so go with that intuition, check in with them, be that person that, hey, just offers support.
This young man just recently lost his father, and his mom is deceased. He was always alone and very quiet. And I called him. I got his number and I called him. I said, how are you doing? How do you feel? That we are here. Mike and I are here for you if you need us. And I just felt that I needed to do that. And also keep an eye on him, call him again and talk to him, invite him out, do something there, because he basically was alone all the time. And now he is alone. So talking about loneliness or stress, anger sometimes, what are some of the other generations are feeling the same? I know we talk about young adults, but do you find that to be the same as when we talk about the Gen X or the baby boomers and the disease? Is that something that's all over us in every generation you can think of?
Yeah, every generation experiences it, but I'm glad that you pointed out those other generations that often are looked at as, they have their things together, they're established, they're, the real adults, right? And they can often be the very people that hide in plain sight. The entrepreneur that's going and buzzing about and is in every hip place might experience a lot of loneliness because they just don't have, healthy, robust connections with people that really get them. I often think about elders, who many of their family and friends have passed on. And so they can also experience loneliness. I read a study that talked about the power of touching your elders because they often are not experiencing physical touch. And what happens to humans that don't have physical touch? Our brain activity starts to decrease, our sense of connection starts to decrease. And so when we think about those older generations, absolutely they can experience loneliness. And the impact on it can be quite grave. Because a lot of their natural connections are no longer, right? They're not going to work. They're not going to the grocery store. And so that sense of loneliness can increase. But I do want to say one thing, spending time alone isn't a bad thing. And that's different from loneliness. I, for one, am an extrovert and I love to be around people, but I absolutely have to balance that with time alone, right? If I'm out all weekend, you best believe and the next day or two, I am shutting the world out and I just need to kind of rejuvenate. That's different from loneliness. Loneliness is when you have the connections or you don't have the connections, and there's the sense of disconnect. You don't have meaningful relationships, or you again don't feel seen or validated or connected to others. And so I just wanted to differentiate between the two. Spending time alone and loneliness, those are two completely different things.
Thank you. Definitely for telling us the difference between the two. And I'm just the opposite. I'm an introvert. I am. And I when I'm around people, I give all of me like 100%. I'm like going after it. I'm in there. I'm right up in there. And after that, I'm like, whew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. You want that alone time, like leave me alone, right?
Right. Because I'm doing the whole 100%. I'm just giving you everything
Yes.
I have. Yes. But I take another day to recuperate. But yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But again, it's that there have been studies, and you're the expert. That's why we have you here in reference to suicide rate. This has gone up tremendously with 15 to 25-year-old, and self-harm. You want to talk about that for a few minutes?
Well, we were already seeing a trend up in these areas regarding self-harm and depression and anxiety before the pandemic. So the pandemic just exacerbated it. Whatever was already going on for people, the pandemic just essentially made it worse, right? And so we were already seeing an increase with mental health issues and concerns for children and adolescents. The pandemic just exacerbated it because, again, a lot of their lives and the norms were put on hold, not only for children and adolescents, but for everybody. The whole world came to a stop. And so we did see a rise in, depression, anxiety. We've seen a rise in, folks just kind of feeling disconnected and not like themselves. And so, yeah.
So there, do you have signs that, what can we do? What can we do? I'm keep asking that question for everything we talk about. What can we do? Because we like right up with them and we don't, what can we do? This is a great show. This is one thing that we can do. Put it out there.
Yeah.
And about your company and why you start the company. Yes, what can we do?
Sure. I think, part of it is educating yourself on the fact that, this pandemic has left many people feeling discombobulated, right? And so the more you are aware of the realities of what many people are living with, the more you'll be able to look out for it and observe it within your family and friends. And I would say that that's the second thing, observe, people love to talk about themselves and we love to be self-centered, but shift your focus onto those you're in community with. Has anybody been displaying, abnormal behaviors, such as, a change in their personality? Are you noticing that they're no longer engaging in social activities, as limited as they have been, yes, with the pandemic, but even more than that? One of the classical signs for suicidal ideation is that they're giving away their things. They start to kind of say, no, I don't need to, wear that watch that I love, or no, I don't need to play that sport anymore that I love. They start to kind of withdraw. And so I would say, observe those that are around you. And again, be bold, be courageous in naming what it is that you see from a non-aggressive, non-combative way, right? It could be said, hey, I've been noticing that you're not coming to Bible study anymore. Is everything okay? Man, I know you used to love to, go to the park and play with your dog. I haven't seen you there in a while. Like, are you good? I know that you love to travel and we haven't been able to travel in this pandemic. How have you been keeping that part of yourself going? How have you been keeping that part of yourself alive? And so I think it's having bold, courageous conversations. Sometimes that can be enough for people to feel seen and heard. And then arming yourself with resources. I always like to tell people, have a couple of resources that you can point people in the direction to, right? Not everybody is a licensed clinician, but if you knew, yes, we are all socialized to know 911, and that is great. But there are some resources out there that can specifically help people with mental health services and support. So one of my go-tos are Therapy for Black Girls. And it's not just for Black girls, it's for Black boys too, and Black adults and everyone, right? But Therapy for Black Girls was created by a therapist to be this powerhouse of resources. So you can be just anyone, go to this website and you can find helpful information on how to manage mental health issues and concerns. There is also a therapy portal. Well, you'll find yours truly on there if you look in the DC area. But you can put in your zip code and it'll bring up therapists in your area that accept your insurance, that may look like you or not, but you can kind of go through their portal and find therapists that will be ready and willing to support you. Um,
And we can always
so
find
it's harming.
April
Oh yeah, you
Preston
can.
in the DC area.
Yes.
And your email and your phone number and your company, right?
Yes. Kovu Healing Psychotherapy and Consulting Services is right there on there. Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. So we have the loneliness. We have we stayed at home forever. And when we went out, a lot of us still in that nervous mood, and children were at home. College students did not go back on campus. Everything was happening. Everything still, we got trying to get back into I don't think, whatever we call normal now, the normalcy of our life. Do you think that we have a mental health crisis on us?
Yeah. We definitely have a public health crisis, right? So this has impacted the entire globe, right? And so anytime that there is a public health crisis of that magnitude, we have to consider mental health, right? If you are navigating losing, thousands of people, I imagine that your mental health on some level is going to be impacted. But here's the thing, the big dogs, the American Academy of Pediatrics, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and the Children's Hospital Association have all declared this time a national emergency in child and adolescents' mental health. So they are saying, like, listen, when we look at these numbers, our children are hurting, our adolescents are hurting, and we are declaring this. The big dogs, the big wigs in mental health in children and adolescents are saying that this is a mental health crisis. So to answer your question, I would say yes, our children are hurting. They have been greatly impacted by this pandemic, just like many adults. And they are often the ones that aren't being, talked to. If you think about your own childhood, when something big happened in your family, children were often the last people that were, one, told about what's actually happening, and then two, tended to, right? We kind of figure, the kids aren't listening, or they young, they'll get over it. And so we want to make sure that we're not doing that with our children and our adolescents throughout this pandemic, because we know that they're hurting. We know that depression and anxiety have increased. I mean, their worlds were also blown up when this pandemic happened.
That's a good point, because when my mom passed, and my son was very close to his grandmother, and I was very conscious of him. How do you feel? Let's talk about it. Let's just do whatever we do. And even today, it's been a while now. We'll talk about, I give him opportunity to say, let's talk about grandma. And he started laughing and get into his mind. He's a grown man now, but he still has that, he still needs to talk because he was so close to his grandmother. Yes. So that's for us not to forget that. A thing about this is that we're so often, I think in our communities, that we said, okay, and there's nothing wrong, because I believe in prayer. You believe in prayer. Prayer moves things.
Indeed.
Prayer is the number one. Yes, Lord. Prayer.
Yes, indeed.
Some people say, they don't realize, sometimes they say, well, pray about it. It'll go away. But in the meantime, God has blessed Miss April Preston to be over there. Bless her to have her business. And you know about it. You say, yes, we're going to pray about it. But God has guided me I tell you about April Preston. I think as Christians, we have to be very conscious of that, because God placed people in our lives, and that's the prayer being answered right in front of us. But we say, okay, pray, and then they leave and they go on about their business and go out to lunch. And you're still there. Like, okay, what do I do? Right. I just wanted to put that there.
Absolutely. It's one of the things why I love New Bethel Baptist Church, is that we talk a lot about that intersection of your faith and mental health services. I believe that God has given, this is one of my gifts, to be able to sit with people as they navigate life challenges. And so I think as the more we can talk about, you can have your faith and a therapist, the more we create space as Christians, as believers, the easier it will be for people to accept the fact that, yes, you can pray and you can talk to a licensed professional as you pray and as you seek God through this very challenging time. I have known for a long time that I'm supposed to be a therapist, and I believe that this is a gift from God.
It's definitely a gift from God. The pressure of being Black in America, with, with the pressure.
Oh man.
Being Black in America, and now the pandemic hit all of us, throughout the world. But this whole other thing that we have to deal with as Black folk.
Yes.
Can you just talk a little bit about that? I don't know what you're gonna say, but I'm like, as a Black woman, and all the things that in line that we have to deal with on a daily basis. That's Black men as well.
Yes.
But Lord help us.
Lord have mercy. I'm gonna miss. I want to say a quote right now, and I knew as soon as I started to say the quote, his name would escape me. But essentially, he said, "To be Black in America is to be in a constant state of rage." Right? To know what we go through on a day-to-day basis, the microaggressions, the racism, the covert and overt, racism, the systems that are designed to, not include us intentionally is outright just despicable, right? Mm-hmm. Even in 2022. And then you add a pandemic on top of that. Yes. And, this is not just the case for Black folks. It is for us, but it's also including brown people, indigenous people who don't identify as the status quo, the norm, people with disabilities, mm-hmm. right? There are many people that mm-hmm. have additional challenges, when it comes to navigating this pandemic. But, as we just talked about, God is real. We are resilient. Mm-hmm. And, it's another stressor, no doubt, right? Mm-hmm. And together with prayer, with community, with connections, with resources, this is another thing that we can triumph through, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think the more we name our unique experiences, and the more we name the racial injustices, the easier it will be for us to continue to navigate this with each other. Mm-hmm. So I think we're getting better with being able to do that in America, but we still have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go. Why are we not insane? It's Black folk. Why are we not?
I would say Jesus Christ.
Right, only Jesus Christ. Only Jesus Christ, but keep in our lives that we are not insane. I want to go back to just in our closing is that you just answered a question, I think, about why you were the founder of Kovo and Kovu, and Kovu mm-hmm. is Wahidi, right? Like we said.
Yes.
And that's scars. We have scars. We have scars, and we carry those scars. And we just thank God for you and taking the time to be with us, because the scars are over and over again. And it's time to heal them, because you and people like you are here to help us. So with that, what one advice you would give us? I know that is so hard, but as listeners and myself, just one thing. It could be one word, it can be one sentence. I don't care.
Yeah.
What would you?
That's a great question, Reverend. It was a hard question, but what came to mind is something a church friend, Lloyd, often says when people ask him, how is he doing? And he responds, Lloyd, he'll say peaceful. And I always thought that was so dope.
That is peaceful. So powerful. Yes.
Right. And so if I had one thing to offer, I would say, find your peace. Find your peace and guard it and create it for yourself on a daily basis. Even if it's for 5 minutes a day, find something that brings you peace, that helps you to calm, because I believe that that's what helps us to continue to move forward. Life isn't easy, and, no one ever said that it would be, but having, space for peace in your life can help you navigate the storms.
Thank you. And to our listeners, we thank you for taking the time to be with us today. One other thing that I'm going to put it out from the universe, when I speak, you never know what I'm going to say, right? I have the reputation, right? So I have to continue my reputation. This woman right here, can make the best pound cakes in the world. She is a pound cake expert. I mean, really. And no, you cannot go to her office. No, because I'm very jealous of her. I know I'm selfish, but she baked the best pound cake. Now, so you have to put it together. This woman here is highly intelligent. This woman here is educated. This woman is a pleasant person. She has peace when you see her. So she knows how to have fun. She knows how to be peaceful. That's why I said about the pound cake. She is a pound cake expert. So with that, we continue to pray and listen to our God to speak to us, our holy God to speak to us. And God would tell you, God would tell all of us what to do. And when God tells us that, we need to stop and do something about it. So the next time you see that young person or anybody, just say, how are you? How are you? You can text a person and say, ask the question. You don't have to go into a long detail. How are you? That's powerful. We thank you, April Preston, for being with us today. May God bless you and continue to be with you, be with you and your company as well.
Thank you.
Just